So I actually wanted to get a haircut before filming this video, but I really haven't had the chance to or the time, so you're just gonna have to deal with me repping some Dragon Ball Z for the rest of this video. Hey guys, it's been a while since I've made a regular video. Sorry about that. I've been kind of busy with work, and I'm in college again, so that's a thing that happened. And yeah, I've been just trying to you know, do some stuff with my life. But I've been also doing the podcast, which I'll talk more about later. So last year, 2020, that was a year, wasn't it? Alrighty, so I could just sit here and list off the reasons why 2020 was awful. You know, you had COVID, you had the death of many beloved celebrities, you know, we had Joe Biden getting into office. And I don't say that as a fan of Donald Trump, I say that as a person who wants a decent politician in office. But you know, 2020 for me personally, there was some good things that came out of it. I managed to lose a significant amount of weight. A picture here is a comparison of what I used to look like at this time last year and what I do now. I earned my associate's degree and I'm working on my bachelor's right now, so that's something. And despite a world-changing pandemic, we had some movies come out, which I'm going to talk about right now. Now I know there's a lot of movies that are going to be missing on this list. I didn't see every movie, but these are the ones that I did see and the ones that made my 2020 a little bit less terrible. But before I talk about these movies, I do want to talk about some other thing that I'm doing. I do host a podcast with my buddy Colton. It's called Huggercast, and you could find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, pretty much anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can find it. It's kind of a more conversational podcast about a lot of nerdy stuff. We usually talk about movies, TV. We usually pick a topic each episode, and we try. It's more of a conversational style podcast. We usually pick a topic each episode and we talk about it. Then we also veer off into other subjects because, you know, we're just a couple of quirky guys. And yeah, if you like podcasts, it would mean the world if you guys listen to it. So yeah, please check it out. I'll leave some links below. Oh, by the way, guys, I forgot to mention, yeah, I'll try to not give too many big spoilers, but I might go into some spoilery-ish things. So if you haven't seen some of these movies, watch with caution, okay? But I do recommend seeing a lot of these movies, so there's your spoiler warning. Don't come in the comments at me. And now on to the 2020 list.
You're too slow!
Of course, we got to start off the list with the best movie of the year. I mean, come on, guys. Why they didn't talk about Sonic the Hedgehog at the Oscars, I have no idea. So a big shout out to the visual effects team, though, that changed this horrible monstrosity of Sonic the Hedgehog into a pretty nice looking kind of video game accurate Sonic the Hedgehog. I hope they get some more work. I wonder what this company's up to right now. Oh, well. No, this wasn't a huge technical marvel of a movie last year, but I mean, it was fun, and in a year where every month had some sort of mishap or disaster, please guys, just let me have this. So the acting was pretty decent. James Marsden does a serviceable job. I really like Ben Schwartz as Sonic the Hedgehog. I thought I was gonna dislike him because I got so used to Roger Craig Smith. But yeah, he's a fun, kind of like peppy version of Sonic the Hedgehog, kind of like younger than we're used to seeing. Jim Carrey absolutely kills it in this role. He is so hilarious to watch. The main problems with this movie is that the story is a bit too cookie cutter. I mean, it's every kind of like road trippy type movie you've ever seen. And then also a little bit too much focus on the human characters. I mean, it's not as bad as something like, I don't know, Smurfs.
Not another single girl in the whole Smurfing world, and I can't believe she's looking at me.
Shut the fuck!
But there isn't as much focus on Sonic and his friends as you would like to see. There's also this really odd product placement for the restaurant Olive Garden, and I don't know if it's cringe and terrible writing, or if it's kind of the most amazing moment in cinema history.
A token of appreciation from your government for keeping quiet about recent incidents which never occurred. Have you tried their never-ending pasta bowl? It never ends.
And it shows up twice, not just once, twice in the movie for no real reason. But all in all, it was kind of like a fun, silly family movie, and as a Sonic the Hedgehog fan myself, yeah, I really liked it.
That man is playing Galaga.
So we go from a decent family movie to show to everybody to a dumpster fire. I mean, when the vibe that you give off in your trailer is like this,
It's okay to be scared.
and your actual movie is like this, yeah, there's a little bit of some problems there. There really just isn't anything good I have to say about this movie, like, at all. I mean, my god, these are some of the worst visual effects I've seen in my entire life. The acting is just downright terrible.
No one messes with my family. Take one more step and I'll rip you a brand new.
The villain of the movie is literally a mustache twirling like Disney villain without any hint of sarcasm or self-awareness. It's literally a cookie cutter mustache twirling villain. And then for some reason, Robert Downey Jr. does this really terrible, unrecognizable, undistinguishable from any other accent type of accent. I mean, Robert Downey Jr.'s voice in this movie actually makes me want to scrape my eardrums with a cheese grater. It is that bad.
The fruit of the Eden tree. Stixia agreed to stay behind. Keep his 12 eyes on things. Excellent. You were born for this moment.
Shut the hell up! Shut up! Shut up!
I mean, the whole movie kind of feels like a giant waste of time. Nothing of importance happens throughout the entire runtime. The shameless celebrity casting really just kind of adds nothing to the movie, and you really don't see a reason these celebrities were cast as these animals. You kind of just watch the movie like, oh, hey, that's Rami Malek. Well, I know him. That the Bohemian Rhapsody guy. He thinks of Freddie Mercury. And you'd think a movie that promises some sort of fun, swashbuckling adventure would give us some really good fights or like some grand scenery. But no, what does this movie give us? It gives us a farting dragon. Yes, a farting dragon. That's how the movie ends. And man, does that ending fit this movie. Does that ending sure fit this movie.
Call it magic.
So this movie was actually pretty good. The animation was absolutely spectacular, and I mean, Pixar has really been up in their game in terms of animation over these past few years. Like, I know Pixar animated movies have always looked really good, but man, these newer movies look really good. The plot's kind of something that's been done a few times before, what with the whole medieval and fantasy landscape kind of brought into the modern world, and it's done okay here. It doesn't really add anything super new to the table. It's kind of just like, oh, people in a fantasy environment that normally wouldn't drive cars and watch TV. Hey, they kind of watch TV, watch a centaur drive a car. Oh, I guess that's kind of cool. Most of the fantasy elements are kind of just used for visual gags, which aren't Pixar's best, but I mean, there's been a lot worse. I'll tell you that. There has been a lot worse. I think Tom Holland does a decent job as kind of that awkward teen character, and Chris Pratt's actually really funny as the older brother. There's some fun scenes with magic and different spells that they learn on their adventure. Although one of my big problems was that there's a scene in the middle of the movie where there's an emotional blow up between Tom Holland's character and his brother. And it kind of happens in the middle of the movie, so you kind of know that nothing's really going to come of it and they're going to make up because there's still like an hour left of the movie. Having big emotional scenes like that in the middle of the movie instead of closer to the end or the beginning is kind of like weird because, I mean, obviously they're going to make up, you know, like they have to complete the rest of the movie. So that emotional moment kind of feels a little bit pointless. The ending is absolutely phenomenal though. I won't dare spoil it, even though I said I might do some spoilers. I won't spoil the ending of this movie because you really have to see it. It hits home, especially because I have an older brother, and if you have any type of sibling or a father figure in your life, this movie will definitely hit you where you live. They kind of subvert your expectations with the ending, and it's a nice little change of pace for Pixar. Not Pixar's best, but an enjoyable movie.
Crangers McBasketball?
There really isn't a whole lot to say about this one. I mean, whether you enjoy the movie kind of depends on whether you find the Impractical Jokers entertaining to watch. I mean, me personally, I really like the Jokers, so I like this movie because it was basically just an extended episode that was about 2 hours long. It's kind of a bunch of normal Impractical Joker segments tied together with a story. What ties this movie together is basically the Impractical Jokers are going to a Paula Abdul concert because in the past they kind of had a bad accident or a mishap at a Paula Abdul concert, and so they kind of want to basically make up for lost times. And the road trip basically just gives them a reason to do their usual kind of Impractical Joker style pranks. I think most, if not all, the segments in this movie were pretty hilarious actually. The chemistry between the Jokers really shines through, and you can tell that they've been friends for a very long time because they make each other laugh, and normally that makes me laugh seeing them laugh together. They really aren't great actors though. I mean, the segments where they kind of have to play in character as the Impractical Jokers that kind of like tie the story together aren't the best because they're more like pranksters and not really actors. Those parts are definitely the weakest part of the film, but I guess those segments are kind of like a necessary evil in order to call this a movie instead of just an extended episode. But yeah, check this movie out if you're a fan of Impractical Jokers or you like like funny pranks that, you know, don't involve someone getting killed.
In the seas cooking with the
You know, I was really excited when this movie was announced because I'm what you would call a Scooby-Doo connoisseur. You know, the original series, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, cinematic masterpieces the likes of which are so good that it would make Martin Scorsese cream his boxer briefs and say, ah, yes, now this is real cinema. Much like the movie Shark Tale that I was involved in for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Oh, hey, don't sweat it, Sykes. A lot of white fish can't do it.
That being said, this movie was a complete disappointment in every way imaginable. The character design isn't too bad. I actually kind of like it, but the animation is just there's something off about the animation. The movements are weirdly stiff and it just doesn't seem cartoony enough. Knock knock. Who's there? Pointless celebrity casting. Oddly enough, Zac Efron as Fred is probably one of my favorite performances of the movie. He weirdly does a good job at it. And you know what? I'm going to say it. Will Forte is not a good Shaggy. It was a horrible miscast. His voice as Shaggy actually makes me hate the art of cinema.
Good idea, Scoob. But first we need a trailer. Oh, can you do the trailer guy voice?
There was absolutely no reason for Warner Brothers not to hire our Shaggy Lord and Savior Matthew Lillard, who can do no wrong. The jokes and references were also kind of lame. They referenced things like Tinder and Netflix, which, you know, it's gonna date the film super well. This film's gonna age like a fine half gallon of 2% milk from the year 1907. Mwah.
Apparently he's been stealing Netflix by using his mother's account.
That is not fair for the rest of us who have to pay for Netflix.
You have to pay for Netflix?
Did they have gallons of milk in 1907? I'm too lazy to try and fact check that, so I will say yes. Yes, they did have half gallons of milk in the year 1907. And this story just feels so lame and rehashed. So the plot is Shaggy and Scooby feel useless to the team because Mr. Ink is trying to get in business with Simon Cowell? Yeah, you know, timeless celebrity Simon Cowell. And he won't invest in the company because he thinks Shaggy and Scooby are like screw-ups or something. So Shaggy and Scooby meet up with Blue Falcon and then they try to thwart Dick Dastardly's plan to take over the world. And then they also find out that Scooby is the ancestor of Alexander the Great's dog. And then Shaggy, seeing what an important role that Scooby plays in saving the world, he gets kind of jealous and Scooby and Shaggy have this emotional meltdown at each other, but then they make up and then they save the world because friendship or something. Also Captain Caveman or something like that. This is a Scooby-Doo movie, right? I mean, Jesus, he's in the title. He's on the poster. He's in the title. The movie's called Scoob. It's called Scoob! First off, didn't we already do the whole Scooby and Shaggy feel useless plot in Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend because it's a cinematic masterpiece of the likes of Scorsese and Tarantino. You know what is actually better than all of those people's movies combined? I mean, the whole main character and his best friend getting upset each other and having a meltdown, but then making up at the end because friendship or something. Isn't that the plot of every animated kids film ever? And then thirdly, it seems like they spent way too much time trying to make a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe instead of trying to make a good Scooby-Doo movie. The beginning portion of the movie where it shows how Scooby and Shaggy met and the formation of Mr. Ink, those are very much so the highlights of the movie. They're the best parts, but it kind of all just goes downhill after that. Yeah, not really a huge fan of this one right here. Man, who would have thought from the year 2020 a Scooby-Doo movie would be the movie I have the most to say about? You just can't tell. You just don't know anymore. You just don't know anymore. These are uncertain times, as the news loves to say.
And his name is John C.
So this one was actually a pretty decent watch. So there's this lady and she has this really abusive boyfriend and she runs away from him and he makes it look like he killed himself, but he really didn't because he's a science man. He's a big old smart boy and he's weaponized this suit that'll turn him invisible and he basically terrorizes this woman to try to make her look crazy. This is basically gaslighting the movie. And I know Twitter, I know you love that word gaslighting. You love to use it in everything you can. You love cancel, you love gaslighting, and you love systemic whatever the heck. You love words like that. The cinematography of this movie does a really good job of filling you with anxiety and fear and just uncomfortableness. There's scenes where Elizabeth Moss's character is like standing in a room and then she leaves the room, but the camera doesn't follow her. The camera just stays in that empty room for a few seconds, making you think there's kind of someone there. And the moments like that really do a good job. I'm 12. Moments like that really do a good job of making you feel very, very uneasy. The acting is also really, really fantastic. Elizabeth Moss Elizabeth Moth. It's a movie where she's searching for the lamp. Elizabeth Moss, she does a really fantastic job. Her acting basically carries the entire movie. If they chose someone else who wasn't acting as well as she is, I don't think I would have enjoyed this movie as much. The only problem I really had with this film was the ending, and just spoilers, guys, spoilers. I'm gonna put a big old spoiler warning right over here. If you don't want to get spoiled, please skip this section of the video. So basically what happens at the end is that Elizabeth Moss's character ends up killing the abusive husband, but not only that, she ends up taking the invisible suit and wanting to use it herself and stealing it, which would have made more sense if they would have developed her character to kind of change into that sort of like sneaky, conniving, vengeful person. But no, towards the end she was still pretty shy and timid, and I mean, she grew enough cojones to actually kill her abuser, which is, you know, that's character development, but they don't really show her wanting to turn into basically this super villain of a person. But other than that, I still really enjoyed the film. I'd say give it a watch. It's a very enjoyable thriller, give you a lot of anxiety, you know, stuff like that. No! I don't really have a lot to say about this movie. It kind of just feels like baby's first political commentary movie. I mean, it has some decent commentary on the political world of the current year, but it feels very surface level. Hey, did you know that Republicans are bad? Hey, did you know that Democrats say they're good, but they actually don't care probably about as much as Republicans don't care? I will say that this movie does a good job of taking shots at both sides of the political aisle. It doesn't seem really all that biased towards one side. It really is kind of just a forgettable political satire movie. Steve Carell's pretty good in it though, but Steve Carell's pretty much good in everything. So if you guys watched the video I made last year about the movies from 2019, you might remember a little movie called Brightburn and how it was infatuated with this kind of idea of a superhero kind of like horror film. And hey, what a coincidence that in 2020 we kind of have a similar mixture of superhero elements and horror elements in a film. Too bad this film isn't that good though. This is a completely passable superhero film. Not a whole lot to say about it. The acting is fine, the story is fine, the horror elements are okay, but it feels like they were toned down a little bit. You can tell this movie was edited to death. Yeah, just really not a whole lot to say about this one. It's just an okay superhero thriller romp. The effects were decent though. Makes me kind of sad because I know that this is probably the last Fox X-Men movie we're gonna get, and from what I was like reading, the directors were really passionate about making like a superhero horror film. So I guess we'll see how the New Mutants fit into the Marvel Cinematic Universe after the acquisition by Disney. I don't know. I can't tell you one way or the other.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
So this one was an interesting one that I saw at the end of last year, and I'm 90% sure it was made because of the meme of the Star Wars holiday special. This Lego special is kind of a spin-off of the recent sequel movies, and it follows Rey trying to teach Finn how to be a Jedi, which I wish was a plot thread in the actual Star Wars sequel movies. Finn should have been the Jedi. Finn should have been the Jedi. I don't know why they made Rey the main character. She's so boring. Finn had this crazy awesome story about how like he's a runaway stormtrooper, and it could have been super cool if they made him the one who rises up against the Empire or the New Order or whatever they want to call it. Anyway, I have some feelings about these Star Wars sequels, obviously. But yeah, this special follows Rey trying to teach Finn how to be a Jedi. So she ends up jumping through the Star Wars timeline at the most memorable moments to kind of see how different masters interacted with their students and to see if she could pick something up from them on how to train Finn. It did seem like this movie was kind of a mini love letter to Star Wars fans. There's a lot of references and jokes to both the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, and it's kind of nice. It's nothing too super complex here, just your standard holiday special. The animation is nowhere near something like the Lego movie or Lego Batman, but it's okay for a special that came out on Disney Plus. It's all right. The sound alikes they got to play the main characters so that they could, you know, sound like the actual actors they're portraying are okay. I think the person they got to voice Rey, they just told her to just do a generic British accent, and the guy they got to try to impersonate Finn or John Boyega really doesn't do a good job at all. He's an alright voice actor, he just doesn't sound anything like John Boyega. I don't see why Disney, being the giant mega corporation they are, couldn't just pull in the actors from the movies for a day to just film this cute little special. I don't know why they had to get sound alikes. But for the most part, it's just a nice cute little holiday special. I don't know if it'll still be on Disney Plus by the time this holiday season comes out, but if it is, I suggest checking it out. It's probably something I might watch every Christmas. Might add it to my Christmas list. You know, I got a few things I always watch every Christmas. You know, I got How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I got the Johnny Bravo Christmas specials that they made. You know, I got Christmas Comes to Pac-Land. I got all the greats, okay? And, you know, this one will be added among all these other specials that I watch around the holiday season.
How come you don't want me, man?
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
God, that meme will never get old to me. There really isn't a huge amount to talk about here in terms of like filmmaking or writing or scripting or whatever. But this was a nice, heartwarming little special. I grew up watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Big fan of the show. Haven't seen every episode, but you know, the real big episodes that people remember, I've definitely seen. It was always a nice little sitcom. I enjoyed watching it with my family. It was also really nice to see Will Smith and the actor who played the original Aunt Viv get some peace and some closure to their whole spat they've had throughout the past few decades. It's nice to see them put that sort of thing to rest. It was also nice to see the cast members just talk about their favorite moments of the series and pay tribute to the late and great James Avery as well.
Tonight I dine on turtle soup.
That part might have brought a tear to my eye, you know, it did. I won't say whether it did or not, but you know, maybe it did. So yeah, check this special out. I don't know if it's still on HBO Max, but it was a few months ago. Check this out if you're a fan of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and you have some fond memories of the show.
I'm Pickle Rick!
I know I keep saying this, but this one's an interesting one actually. So Seth Rogen plays a pickle salesman or some sort of pickle maker or something. I don't know the actual term for it. He plays a person that makes pickles in the early 1900s, and then his character falls into a vat of pickling liquid. Again, I don't know the word for it, but I assume some sort of mix of vinegar, some sort of pickling liquid. Seth Rogen turns himself into a pickle. Funniest thing I've ever seen. So he falls into this vat of pickle liquidy juice and wakes up in the current year, and then he goes to find his most distant relative, which is Seth Rogen. Sounds weird saying that. Seth Rogen tries to find Seth Rogen. Old Seth Rogen tries to find his most distant relative, who is Seth Rogen of the current year, and Seth Rogen of the current year is a struggling app developer. I originally liked how low-key and subtle the performances were. In the beginning, it's a wacky idea, but it's kind of played a little seriously, and I kind of liked it because I didn't expect that. There's a part where older Seth Rogen goes to visit the grave where his wife at the time was buried, and you know, he wants to pay respects, and he's upset that the gravesite was bought out, and there's a billboard for some Russian vodka above where the gravesite is, so he wants to like buy out the gravesite. It's kind of like silly, but it's also kind of like serious and heartwarming as well. It seemed like it was going to be kind of a normal story aside from the whole, you know, time traveling aspect. But halfway through the movie, everyone kind of starts acting like cartoon characters. I still enjoy the rest of the film, but I kind of preferred this more subtle and subdued acting style and writing style of the first half. Seth Rogen actually does a job playing both versions of himself, both the old distant relative from the 1900s, as well as the struggling app developer who, like I said in the beginning, gives a very kind of laid back and subdued performance. I enjoy that the movie's also not like 2020 jokes over and over. Hey, look at this thing that will only be popular in 2020 and will completely date the movie. There's not a whole lot of that. Like, one of the main things that older Seth Rogen is amazed by in the future is sparkling water, or how you can make every beverage sparkling, which I thought that was kind of a funny, kind of like off the wall, kind of random joke. And it's also something futuristic that won't immediately date the film, because I doubt sparkling water will go out of style anytime soon. The comedy is kind of hit and miss, but for the most part, there's a lot of good hits. I did find myself laughing a lot in this movie. One of my main complaints is how the story takes this weird turn where the modern Seth Rogen becomes needlessly mean and cruel to the old relative Seth Rogen for really no reason. Like, he gets so needlessly mean and cruel to the fact where after both Seth Rogens make up, I almost still don't like his character. The reason modern Seth Rogen gets mad at older Seth Rogen is because older Seth Rogen develops a pickle business that's super successful, and he basically develops it out of nothing, and then modern Seth Rogen is still kind of struggling with his app development. So basically, out of jealousy of his relative, modern Seth Rogen tries to cut down old school Seth Rogen's pickle business at every turn. It really kind of just comes out of nowhere. And like I said, the latter half of the film sees everybody kind of like acting like very cartoonish. Like, they go from kind of a normal world, again aside from the time travel aspect, to this kind of weird version of the world that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, obviously, because older Seth Rogen's from the 1900s, he has a lot of different, very old conservative views on homosexuality and women's rights. And so older Seth Rogen has a debate in the town hall with a modern feminist, and for some reason, whenever older Seth Rogen makes a point, the audience agrees with him, and whenever the modern feminist makes a point, they laugh at her. Like, guys, I know a lot of modern feminists can be pretty funny, but I mean, you're going against a guy who is from the 1900s. There's gotta be something you agree with the modern feminist on, right? And it's never explained why the audience agrees with older Seth Rogen's views on women. It's an interesting movie because I enjoyed a good chunk of it, but there's just some glaring issues like the ones I brought up before. Check it out if it seems interesting to you though, because I think Seth Rogen did a different type of movie than he's used to doing, and it's pretty alright.
Were you killed?
Sadly, yes. But I lived.
Now, this movie is absolutely stunning and beautiful. I already had said that Pixar movies have been really upping their game, but man, this movie is just gorgeous to look at. The animation is stellar, the script is really well written, the music and score is just amazing. Part of that is because it was worked on Trent Reznor, who you may know from the band 9 Inch Nails. It really is a story about life, and it's about a guy learning to appreciate his own life and the little things in his life. This is one of those movies I really just don't want to spoil at all, so I'm not going to say much about it, but all I'm going to say is please do yourself a favor and check out this movie. I don't know why I'm saying it like this. Check out the movie. Do you guys ever do that whenever you learn that you were learning like syllables in like elementary school? You would clap it out. You'd be like, check out the movie. Now I guess people kind of use this clapping thing as a way to make their points seem more better on Twitter. Listen, sweetie, if you don't think that white milk is racist, then don't talk to me, sister bestie. Anyway,
China.
So I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I scripted a good chunk of this video out. Well, I'm also, using the script, and I'm also kind of like speaking off the top of my head to get a more natural reaction of some of these movies. But when it came to Mulan, I got to it, I forgot about it, and I forgot to write anything down, and I thought it'd be a lot funnier if I just go off the top of my head for this one. Of course, with some, edits to make it not super boring to listen to. This movie was not good at all. This is what happens when I work without a script, guys. The action in this movie was really not edited very well, and I thought that was going to be the whole point of this movie, was to make a newer version of Mulan, a kind of like more traditional Chinese kind of like action film. But no, the action was edited super terribly. There's a lot of random cuts like every few seconds. The cinematography is like super flat. The acting's okay, but they change a lot of things from the Disney version for no real reason. Like, there's no Mushu. Like, I get they want to make like a more traditional, grounded Chinese story, but then they also have a lady that can turn into a bird. So how realistic we talking that you don't even want to put Mushu, one of the most memorable aspects of the original film, in this movie? It makes no sense. Yeah, I didn't think the writing or the dialogue of this movie was that good at all. There's also no songs. Again, grounded, realistic action Chinese movie, with a lady that can turn into a bird, but it's super grounded and realistic. This ain't like that cartoon that you're used to watching. This one's for the adult audience, with a bird that can turn into a lady. Super realistic and grounded, adult audience. And not saying you can't have fantasy elements in adult movies, obviously, but it just seems like they tried to make it a little more gritty and live action and realistic, with also taking away the aspects that made the original so good and so memorable, and that's why this movie's not very good. It's also just a bore. It is a complete bore to watch. Also, one of the story elements of Mulan kind of sucking at her training and not being very good, they throw that out the window. Mulan's awesome from birth. She has this thing called Chi, which she can harness to do super awesome, almost superhero-like things. So one of the main plot threads of her, getting better in the army, learning how to fight, learning to become a good warrior, completely thrown out the window. Character progression, what's that? We just need a really strong, super awesome female character who has no sort of any character development and just starts off amazing and ends amazing. Now that's true progression, and that's true representation in film. sweetie. It really doesn't make sense because when she's in the army, she kind of has to hide her chi, and that's why she kind of sucks at things, but not really because she kind of uses her chi sometimes to be really awesome in the army. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And yeah, this movie just isn't very good, so much so that I forgot to write any script for it, and all of that was just off the dome, as they would say. Yeah, don't see this movie. Don't see this movie. And I'm really glad that it flopped, and they need to stop. I'm not going to say they need to stop making these live action remakes because I've enjoyed a few of them. I'll put the ones here that I actually enjoyed. But if they're going to remake something, they need to have a reason and a purpose, and to make it, I don't know, make it better or just different from the original, or fix some of the flaws of the original. I don't know. This one goes in the pile with like the Lion King remake in terms of unnecessary remakes.
Wile E. Coyote, super genius.
We don't need
No, I got stuff to say about it. Jesus, though. So this movie was just a steaming pile of shit. Not one thing about this movie works. Not one. I honestly feel really bad for the kid that got to play Artemis Fowl because I'm pretty sure he thought this was going to be like his breakout role. Like, man, this is the one that's going to launch him to stardom. This is going to be his Robert Downey Jr. for Iron Man type thing. But no, he was given a role in a movie where he was directed to act like he was bored half the time and told to read lines from a script that seemed like they were written by a lobotomized salamander. This story is obviously really overly complicated for a younger children's early young adult movie, but it basically boils down to Artemis Fowl needing to find a MacGuffin to help save the world. Gee, I wonder how many movies we've seen that happen in. Josh Gad plays this mythical creature with terrible CGI, and he's also the narrator of the film, and again, he has a terrible accent. I don't know what 2020 is the year of like terrible accents with well-respected actors, but I don't know what to tell you. The editing in this movie is also really terrible. There's so much pointless slow-mo that it would give Zack Snyder a hard-on. There's even a point in the end where there's this like super choppy slow-mo for no reason. There's also a very pointless death of a main character that has no emotional impact because, hey, guess what? A few minutes later, they bring him back, so that was pointless. At the end of the film, Artemis also calls himself the world's greatest criminal mastermind, despite not doing anything criminal or genius or mastermind-ish throughout the entire runtime of the film. Just an absolutely horrible flick. Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
We don't need no education.
I actually really enjoyed this film. So Bad Education is a movie based on the true story of a superintendent that was misappropriating and misusing funds for his own personal use. And also his like team and subordinates were also doing some shady stuff too. In case you didn't know, any type of school official using money like that for any personal use is very highly illegal because, well, schools are funded by tax money, so you're basically stealing money from normal average people's pockets. But when has the government ever been frivolous with their spending? Please, you'll never catch the government being frivolous with their spending. Ever. At all. Hugh Jackman really sells this character who isn't necessarily a bad dude and obviously cares a lot about the students and the faculty and the staff, but he just kind of got caught up in some bad situations with some bad life choices. The Gilf from the show Mom is here, and she does a really good performance, and believe it or not, she does a really good and believable accent in the year 2020. I know, it's with all the bad accents we've had in this video and that I've talked about, it's hard to believe that we've got a good one, but hey, we got a good one. Ray Romano also does a really fantastic job in this movie, and you know what? It's just really good to not see him in another terrible Ice Age sequel.
What's up, my nigga?
It's a really good movie that shows how power can corrupt seemingly innocent individuals and destroy the lives of pretty much everyone around you. Great movie. Highly recommend it. You can find it on HBO Max, if it's still there.
Life is good, but it can be better.
It's kind of sad to say that we end this video of this terrible year with a movie that is a giant mess. The movie actually kind of starts okay because it has this kind of like really cheesy like 1970s-ish action scene that doesn't really take itself too seriously, and I was kind of into how non-serious the movie was taking itself. Oh boy, but then the actual plot hits. The plot basically revolves around this wishing rock that gives everyone their deepest desires and wishes. Wonder Woman gets a hold of it and ends up wishing Steve Trevor back. But no, he doesn't just materialize out of thin air, which would probably be just fine. You wouldn't really need an explanation for that. You'd just be like, oh, it's magic. It's a magic rock. It can just magic things in the air. No explanation necessary. But instead, somehow he kind of possesses the body of an already existing person and takes over that body, and that person is now Steve Trevor. There really needs to be some explanation, because it causes way more questions than it answers, and leads to a lot of really weird scenes, because Diana and this Steve Trevor person like have sex and stuff, so it's like, who's she having sex with? Kristen Wiig's villain Cheetah could be completely removed from the movie and it would make no difference at all. The only performance I really liked was Pedro Pascal as like this villainous salesman, and he basically gets a hold of the wishing rock and then he wishes himself to be the wishing rock. That, now that I say that out loud, that sounds really silly. Let me check to see if is that accurate? Oh, who wrote this crap? Pedro Pascal gives this really over-the-top performance and even evokes a little bit of emotion from me in the scenes that he has with his son. This movie ends with a terrible CGI fight that happens in the dark, so you really can't even see what's happening. Did we learn nothing from the ending of Venom? And then also this really laughably bad scene where Diana learns to fly. It just looks so silly and so stupid, and I know they were meaning it to be very emotional, but I was just laughing because it just looks so silly. This movie was such a mess, and it's a shame because I actually, for the most part, enjoyed the first Wonder Woman, and I really like Gal Gadot. I think she plays a really good Wonder Woman. It's a shame this movie kind of blows. I know there wasn't as many movies as 2019's list, and I didn't see a lot of movies, so I'm going to put on the screen some movies from 2020 that I missed that I'll probably end up seeing at some point, but I'm sure were really good. Here's the list right here, guys. Woo, 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 woo. But yeah, thanks for watching. I know it's been a while since I've made a regular YouTube video, but I want to get back to making more regular YouTube videos, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what I do after this one. And guys, like I said in the beginning of this video, I do have a podcast now. It is called Huggercast. It is with a close buddy of mine, Colton. It's a conversational style podcast. We usually talk about a lot of nerdy stuff, normally movies, TV, games, stuff like that. We pick a topic each episode and we dive into it, but then we also go into a lot of random tangents. So if you like conversational style podcasts, please check out Huggercast wherever you find podcasts. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, pretty much wherever you can listen to things. It's there. Like, I'm pretty sure if you put your ear near a mouse hole at your own house, you'll probably hear a stream of my podcast coming out. Even just in the faintest of noises, it'll be there somewhere. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, share with your family, your friends, all the YouTube jazz that the YouTubers always say. And yeah, now it's time for me to prepare for next year's list because I've only seen one movie this year. And I have a lot more movies to see. So thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.